So that's basically what we're trying to do, right? This is kind of an introduction. Why are we doing this? Because we want to be happy, go back to Godhead. And how to do that? By working with our material body and our subtle body as a tool for getting out. It's like a vehicle. It's like you want to drive, you learn how to drive a car. You have a boat, you learn how to sail a boat. You don't take your car and drive it off the pier down by the harbor, because it's not going to work. No, but I'm not the car. No, but the car is the car. The car is not a boat just because you're not a car. Do you know what I mean? You know, I'm not the body, so I can do whatever. No, the body does what the body does. Like Janavi Mata, you know, she's not Janavi Prabhu or Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda is not going out with the cowherd boys on the field. But she's transcendental. She can do whatever she wants. No, but she's Mother Yashoda, so she does what she does, right? So in the same way, we should humbly follow in that path. Okay, so let's get. I was thinking, now we did something about the principles. What is masculine and feminine? Let's get into the psychology. That's usually what devotees are most interested in. There is a different way that men and women think. So first, let's look at what is a thought. What is it actually? Well, you have a gross body made up of senses. There are 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, and 5 active senses, right? And then you have a subtle body that kind of does the thinking, right? So the subtle body consists of our mind, our intelligence, and our ego. False or true? Usually false, right? So when we have a thought, what happens is that some sensory input comes. We see something, we hear something, we read something, whatever, something comes in. That goes to the mind. The senses are connected to the mind. The mind basically has one function. It is to discern whether the input is good or bad. That's all it does. It's either attracted or it rejects. That's all it does. It does it based on samskaras and previous impressions in the mind. So I usually use the example of dogs. I was bitten by a dog when I was a child. That means every time I see someone walking with a dog, there's a little, alarm bell going off in my mind. Because, not because, I've walked past plenty of dogs since that didn't bite me. But that impression is there, so it just, I don't like dogs, So another person maybe had parents who were fighting all the time, but she had a little puppy. And so when she sees a dog, it's the opposite, it's attraction. So just based on previous impressions, we are either attracted or kind of repulsed or something like that. That's what the mind does. So what happens is that we get millions of sense impressions on our mind all the time. And the mind just takes all these little yeses and nos, attractions or rejections, and archives them. And then the next thing that happens is the intelligence looks at all these things and says, what can we do? The intelligence compares and contrasts. It finds similarities and differences. So it'll create possibilities. What can we do with the things we have here? Like with the dog, I can run away, I can run over and kick it, or I can try and pet it and see if it works better if I do that. So many possibilities are there, right? Now, depending on how intelligent you are, you will have many or not so many possibilities at your disposal at any given time. They just kind of jump up these possibilities of activities. And then the false ego, based on our sense of identity, will make a decision. Which possibility are we going to go with? right? For me, the one with petting the dog is not really a good option. It doesn't, I'm a brahmachari, Vaishnava. I don't believe in serving dogs. You know, I had this thing when I was a child, so the mind is not crazy about it either. So based on my sense of identity, I will make a decision to not pet the dog. I'll just, try to be cool and aloof, because that's, how a brahmachari should act. Now technically I'm not a brahmachari, I'm still a transcendental spirit soul. I'm in a brahmachari situation now. I'm wearing the clothes, and I'm sitting here talking, and I'm going to India to study. That's what brahmacharis do, some do. So I believe I'm a brahmachari, but I'm not. I'm just a spirit soul in that situation. That's why I have the white bead back, to remind myself I'm not actually a brahmachari. Because if I die thinking I'm a brahmachari, I'll take birth as a brahmachari. I don't want to take birth, so that's why. But I still make my decision in the subtle body based on that identity. So if I was a truck driver and someone asked me, could you give a seminar on masculine and feminine principles, probably my sense of identity would say no, right? But now I'm doing this, and it's kind of my identity, so I say yes. And sometimes I've been asked to give some seminars that I actually was not really prepared to do, I felt like, but I said yes anyway, because my sense of identity kind of pushed me to do that. Right now I'm kind of fried out. I've been in the West for 8 months, and I'm getting really, really tired of hearing my own voice. I'm ready to go and just listen for some months. But because I have this sense of identity, when I'm asked, I say yes. So in this way, information goes through the senses, then to the mind, and the intelligence makes options based on those impressions. The false ego makes a decision. Are we going to do this, that, the other thing? And then the false ego contacts the mind again, who says, look, this is the suggestion, we're going to go with this. And if the mind is somewhat balanced, it's going to, yep, sure, and then activate the active senses, the arms and legs and voice and so on. Right? That's a thought. That's what it is. It functions differently from men to women. For men, this subtle body, the mind, the intelligence and the false ego are like 3 different rooms. He can be in one of the rooms, but only one room at a time. That's why men can become quite stupid when they are in love, because the intelligence and the identity goes, they just don't care, and they're all much more emotional than women are. Do you recognize what I'm saying? Sometimes when men, they completely lose control, and a woman will be like, okay, this is a little bit much, right? Or men will also, they will have a tendency to kind of gravitate towards the intelligence room. Men like to figure out stuff. It doesn't have to be stuff that makes any sense or can be used in any kind of practical sense. They can sit and have, like, in the basement, they can have a model railway that's completely spot-on copy of some railway station in Jutland. And nobody knows about it because they don't care, because it doesn't have to have any practical application. It's just fun to play around with these things. And that's what they do. And they can do that their whole life. And they're also very strong if they're in the false ego position. We see that with sports stars, or generally like very famous and accomplished people. Let's take the example of the sports star. We have many professional athletes, right? And then there are those who are just exceptional. Like in Barcelona, they have a football player called Lionel Messi. And he's just the best. He's just better than anyone else. And in Formula One, you had someone called Michael Schumacher, who won the Formula One championship, I think 7 times. I mean, what's the odds of that? And tennis, there was this Roger Federer guy who was just the best ever. Now what makes them so much better than all the other guys? Because all the other guys, they also have millions backing them, and they also have the perfect training facilities, and they spend all their time doing it, and you know, the diet and everything's perfect. So why are these guys so much better? That's the false ego. Because they have this complete, it's not even confidence. They are just completely convinced that I am the best. So when Michael Schumacher is in a turn with his Formula One car and the other guy is right here, and it's just the tires are almost touching each other, the other guy is thinking, oh my God, this is going to go bad, I'm going to crash, and it's going to be millions out the window, the whole weekend is ruined, and I'm going to get it from my boss. Michael Schumacher, he'll be thinking, I got this. That's all he's thinking. And that's why he will pull through, and the other guy will pull out, right? So it's just about false ego. So for the men, they're in one of these rooms. Now for the woman, it's one room with, like you could say, with 3 doors. So everything is working at the same time. That's great in some cases and not so great in other cases, right? So it's not that one is better than the other, it's just that it works better for different situations. And this is why it's extremely confusing for a man to discuss with a woman. Because he'll usually go to the intelligence room. No, we have to figure this out, and that's why it's so frustrating for a woman when she tells her, you know, worries or whatever about her day to a man, and he immediately starts solving the problem. Because that's not what it's about for a woman, it's just about sharing and caring, you know. But for the man, it's like he's in the intelligence room, what you gotta do is this. And it's like, nobody wants to hear that. I mean, even for men, it's a hassle when other men do that, because that's not actually why we communicate, but we just have this tendency to go into that intelligence room. So he'll go in there and, okay, we have to figure out why are we disagreeing on this and stuff like that. Now, the woman will then tend to go to the emotion. It's one room for her, she just switches to the emotions. Why are you doing like this? This is making me feel like this, and I'm not happy about this. And the man is like, what? I thought we were trying to figure something out here. So, okay, maybe I'm in the wrong room. So he gets out of the room and changes and goes into the emotion room. Okay, let's just calm down here. But then she's already on the false ego. What does this mean for our relationship? I don't know even who you are and who am I compared to you, and now he's even more confused because now he's in the emotion room and she's over in the... So he has to get out again and figure out, am I going back into the intelligence room didn't work. So we go into the false ego room and she's somewhere else. So the man is kind of like chasing after something, he doesn't know what's going on, and she's frustrated because he doesn't know what's going on. So that's why we usually, often, it's not uncommon that conversation between men and women break down when there is a disagreement. Do you recognize this? So, because we don't know how this works. And that's why it's great to read the Shastra and try and figure these things out. Because there are ways that we can kind of overcome this. There are Shastra describes two things for a woman and 2 things for a man that they need to be aware of if in dealing with the opposite sex. So for the woman, she has to be satisfied and chaste. Satisfied doesn't mean she has to accept whatever and be used as a doormat. That's not at all what it means. It means that when she is, let's say, training her man, she should do it satisfied, because it won't work otherwise. I mean, if she's satisfied, she can still move the man towards whatever she can go inside, towards whatever she wants, basically. But if she does it in a nagging way, she'll alienate the man because he doesn't know how to deal with that. So she should be satisfied. And men are generally prone to impersonalism because we have a tendency to go into the intelligence room and leave out the emotions, so we become impersonal. So she has to be chaste because we honestly don't understand relationships as well as women do. We just don't. So if the woman is chaste, then we feel secure. We feel like, okay, I know where she is or something like that. So that's why men become very easily insecure if women are kind of a little loose, even though it doesn't mean anything or something. So that's advised from Shastra, that women should be kind of aware of that. For the man, sensitive and sense-controlled. So sensitive because, as we described before, the conversation between a man and a woman, it has a tendency that the man becomes impersonal. That's very frustrating for a woman because she's trying to share something. So the man has to be aware that he has to be sensitive. He has to kind of figure out, is she happy? Is something going on? You know, we all know this thing. What's wrong, honey? Don't you know what's wrong? No, I don't. That's what's wrong, right? Because the man was not sensitive. So she's been walking around with something that's been bothering her, and he's just, well, I mean, I guess she'll tell something if something's up, you know, but that's his job, to kind of be sensitive. Is something the matter? Is everything nice or not? You know, so that's just another point. Anyway, yes. And sense control, because otherwise he will be exploiting her. Men have to be sense controlled. If we say that the masculine represents the energetic and the feminine the energy, then energy works in waves, right? If you want to exploit it, it'll pull away. If you don't want to exploit it, it'll come closer. Does that make sense? That if the man is self-satisfied and he does his duty, he's not trying to exploit anyone, that's attractive for a woman because she will feel like there's stability there. If he is, I mean, we all know these men who are just kind of desperate to get a woman. It never really works, does it? You know, because that desperation just means he's not actually going to be looking out for me if he gets me, you know. So it's just kind of no. So men have to be sensitive and self-controlled. So then that's kind of, there are many other aspects to a relationship, but if the woman kind of keeps that in her mind, chaste and satisfied, the man keeps that in his mind, sensitive and sense-controlled, then the major issues should be resolved. So then, like when the woman has some frustration, the man doesn't get frustrated. He doesn't try to mirror the emotions. He just takes it calmly. Okay, let's see what's going on, you know, because he's sensitive and sense-controlled. And then immediately it kind of gets better. So in this way, we can kind of mitigate these misunderstandings that we find between men and women. Let's see, anything else regarding the psychology? Are there any questions on anything here or anything that sounds... Yes?
You said that like the man has he is in one out of 3 rooms,
yes.
And the woman is in all 3 rooms at once.
It's just one room.
I didn't understand how woman is in all rooms at once.
Okay.
This is my brahmachari.
Yes. So basically, the woman works with emotions and intelligence and false ego at the same time. She's multitasking. The man cuts it up into 3 different processes. Emotions, then intelligence, then false ego, then activity. So, let's see. So, yes, So that's why we say that men are more intelligent than women. Because he just goes into, it's not because he has more intelligence, because intelligence is Krishna. It's just that when he's in the intelligence room, nothing else is going on. That's also why you see men killing themselves, because if they're not in the intelligence room, there is none. So you see people going on a bachelor party. I read that in the newspaper once before I became a brahmachari. That they had gone to a field and they had gotten a parachute and they had hooked him up to the back of a car for his bachelor party, and they pulled him because the idea was that he should then have a parachute ride. And of course the parachute kind of flipped and he knocked into the ground and died. So he never got married. So women don't do stuff like that, right? Because the intelligence is always working. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Men do this because they get excited and intelligence stops working. They go into the emotion room and, oh, this is going to be great, you know, and let's get some beer, stuff like that. So, yeah. But at the same time, men make supercomputers. They figure so many strange things out because they can, if they are in the intelligence room, that's all that's going on. Nothing, our consciousness is limited. So if there's emotions or a false ego thing going on, then that will detract from the intelligence. Yeah?
Okay, so if I'm not totally wrong, then so it means like women, they can, they are, when emotions are there, they're not so easily to just focus on intelligence.
Mm.
They're affected
They're
by
actually
emotions.
they're actually usually more aware than
And
men
more aware also.
of everything.
But the man,
Men
he can
are-
like block it all out. He
Yeah.
can just very strict.
They can block it all out, like, yeah. So sometimes that's a good thing,
Yeah.
you know. If there's a high tension situation, or I mean, the company is like 2 weeks away from bankruptcy, and you have to have a success now, or 100 people are getting fired. The man can block that out and just, okay, let's do this. It's more difficult for a woman. It's more work for her to block that out compared to a man. Now for the woman, the advantage is that, okay, man is more intelligent, but she's more clever, because she's working both with like social intelligence and methodical intelligence and spatial intelligence at the same time. It's all working. So that means socially women are much more capable than men usually. It also means that usually in relationships, it's not uncommon that you find men doing something. They don't know actually why they're doing it, but the woman knows. She just doesn't feel like it was necessary to tell the man why he's doing it. So he's hanging up some shelf or something and he doesn't really know, but she knows because she's been, you know, just, I mean, manipulating is a kind of a negative word, but you know, she's charming and she's, you know, has these ideas, and the man is like, well, okay, you know, okay, so we do that. So it's just different. It's not that one is better than the other. Just in different situations, these tendencies are either good or not so good. Does that work?
But of course, this is all, I mean, on the conditioned level, because of course we hear that devotees, advanced devotees, they are very aware of everything. They're not like losing their intelligence or
No.
something like that. So it's, of course, this is all on the material level.
I mean, what happens when you become an advanced devotee is that your emotions become in line with Krishna's emotions. So you generally don't end up on a field in a parachute, because what's the point? Where's Krishna's enjoyment in that? So as long as you're connected with Krishna, then it doesn't become like stupid. So then it becomes very beneficial. Is that?
Yeah,
right?
thank you.
Yeah. So that's just what that's. Yeah. This is conditioned. Yeah. So So men have this tendency to be insensitive or impersonal, because we just, yeah, and women have this tendency to kind of become a little sentimental, right? So that's the downsides of each of kind of the genders. So they need each other. So we hear often that we have to end soon. Okay, I'll just touch on this and then we'll continue tomorrow. Or do you want to ask some questions now, because we have okay.
I think we can go into the karate in case it needs.
Yeah.
We have rare opportunity to hear about this.
Okay.
So I think we can go into karate.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So questions. There were some questions, right? Yes.
Yeah, one question about this. You said the woman should be satisfied and chaste.
Yeah.
If she's not chaste, it creates insecurity in the man.
Yeah.
And what about this being satisfied? How does that affect if she's not satisfied, or if she's satisfied?
Yeah.
How does that affect the man? Or why is that important?
Very good question. Because the man has control, but the woman has power. She's the energy, so she's the value. I mean, okay, so the man builds a house. It's just a bunch of walls and windows. But then the woman makes it into a home. She makes the value of the house. It becomes valuable. So the man is looking for value of life in the woman, because otherwise a man's life is kind of not really that interesting. Men like doing the same thing over and over again. It's quite simple and boring usually. So the woman brings some value, some variation, some colors and some moods into the relationship, right? So if she's not satisfied, then it becomes very difficult for the man to see the value in the relationship. And this is something that women usually, it doesn't come naturally for women to think like that. Because for a woman, of course, there's value in the relationship. That's why we're having this discussion, to increase the value. But for the man, it's like, I don't know if she loves me. He doesn't see the difference between the situation, the specific situation, and the relationship as a whole. So, does that make sense? That a man thinks that after the first fight the couple ever has, he thinks, oh, are we getting a divorce now? And the woman's like, why would you even think that? We're just discussing something, right? We're just having a conversation. So it's important, or it's beneficial if the woman considers that to be satisfied when she discusses different topics with her man. Because he gets insecure, he doesn't know what are the consequences. We're like a little bit retarded when it comes to relationships. So we can't figure out where's this going? Where does this end? Does that make sense? So then men are very sensitive on that. So therefore it's advised that the woman would kind of be gentle like that. And also, women have much more mood than a man. There's much more flavor and expression of mood. So it can be kind of intense for a man sometimes to be around all this mood, So therefore it just becomes easier for the man if there's a general satisfaction there. Again, it doesn't mean that you just accept whatever he comes up with, but you work from a kind of a positive platform. Then it works out much easier. Also in terms of you getting what you want, So that's why it's advised to satisfaction. Yeah. Is that okay? Okay. You have something?
Yeah. So seemingly we are different, but it's just an illusion actually that we are different.
Yes. We're all unique. We're all the same tattva. We're all jiva. And we're all unique because we all have a specific relationship with Krishna. But what we're experiencing now is not it. What we're experiencing now is the result of millions and millions of lives of impressions on the mind. Now that, because we're identifying with it, that's what we call the false ego,